Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today as well for the live stream. It's good to see everyone here, and just want to say thank you for coming. So recently I got some emails that from other people that said they had been watching the video on demands, like the recordings after, and so I really wanted to say thank you to them as well. Even to those who can't join the live stream while it's live, but thank you so much for joining and listening in. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. So one topic that someone was asking about from like for this time's live stream was talking about like Shinbutsu Shugo era. So that's like the era of the kamis and the Buddhas before the Meiji era, and it made up a long history of Japanese traditional culture, like religious culture, but also like daily culture. I don't know how to explain it, but um, it wasn't just like Shinto and Buddhism wasn't only relevant in like the religious sense, but also in the daily life and the cultural and even like the sense of like people's daily lives, like even what they ate. So it was a really long period of history and makes up the majority of like Japanese cultural history is like the Shinbutsu Shugo era. Shinbutsu Shugo. Shin is kami and butsu is Buddha, and Shugo means like putting them together, like or mixing them. I don't know if mixing them is not really like what I want to say because it wasn't like they were completely merged together. It was more like they were being practiced like side by side with some mixture into it. Oh, hello, Teresa, and welcome. So, I mean, a lot of people say think when they hear Shinbutsu Shugo, they think like Shinto and Buddhism were like completely like merged together. But in reality, it was more like there was like shrines and then there was temples. Oh yeah, syncretism. Oh, I guess like the word shugo doesn't mean syncretism directly, but basically there was like a lot of syncretism in the Shinbutsu Shugo time. Like like they would connect like a Buddha to like a kamisama and like a kamisama to a Buddha, and it but like the two religions still remained pretty like much their own practices, and the only exception would be like the kamisama who were like their worship was like innately mixed. So like for example like Matarajin sama who was connected to Tendai Buddhism, but he was also like a kamisama, like worshipped like a Shinto kamisama. And of course like the seven lucky gods like the Shichi Fukujin, like they were also like they were kind of like a mix of like Hindu gods and like Buddhist like bodhisattvas with like Shinto worship. So they were very like mixed kamisamas. But like and like I guess you could say like other like native kamisamas were also like they were also kind of like mixed in the sense that like they had a lot of Buddhist attributes like given to them, but like ultimately it was understood that these were like kamisama of like the way of the kami like in jinja and shrines, and that the Shinto priest would worship them, and then the Buddhist temples were like their own like worship places, and they would teach like the teachings of Buddhism. So it was kind of like it was like connected but not like completely mixed up together. So I don't know, it was kind of it was like an interesting there's like an interesting nuance there. And of course like Inari Kami-sama and like a few other kami-sama like Hachime no Kami-sama was depicted as a Buddhist monk. And a lot of people like ask like why did this happen? And to be honest, it was really just like a way for like the two religious practices to kind of like find harmony within each other, you could say. And the reason I say this is because like it's because of like a lot of things really. It was mix of like political and cultural and like people's individual faiths. So like Buddhism, like at least Japanese Buddhism and Shinto practices, they're not like exclusive to one another. So people would often like before and now, you know, a lot most majority of Japanese people have like a butsudan for their ancestors and then the kamidana for praying to the kamisama for their daily life. And so you could see already like even in just someone's daily life in their house, we have like the Buddhist Butsudan, and then the Shinto practices Kamidana. And these two like ways, or like religious or spiritual ways, were kind of like intertwined in their life. Oh, hi Tifa-san, welcome. And it's kind of like, it's like it wasn't that like it was like anything forced really, or like they were trying to like put them together to like make them like more, like I don't know how to explain it. Like it's not like they were trying to put these two religions together like forcefully. It just kind of happened more naturally, to like kind of like incorporate, I guess, or like bring together these two practices in their daily lives. And the balance was kind of that like Buddhism kind of dealt with like the afterlife and like death, and not so much death entirely only, but kind of more like bigger theological concepts of like afterlife and like more spiritual in nature. And then whereas like Shinto would basically kind of like, because there was no like theology or like particular like teachings. I mean, you like there was some arguments in the Kokugaku era of like the scholars of Shinto that there was like theology and mythology and like all these more like deeper studies. But like ultimately, Shinto as a whole, like it was based on like the practices and the rituals towards Kami-sama and our daily lives and the cyclical year with the Kami-sama. It didn't really go too deep into like, for example, like Buddhism kind of goes into like samsara and like all the realms and like how to reach nirvana and like escape samsara. Like there's this whole deep lore, but Shinto practices don't really have that kind of like deep lore. It's kind of just like, this is how the universe or like the kami-sama work together, and we have Mitama no Kami-sama, and then we just like focus on like receiving blessings for the year. So they're like the level of like complexity, I guess, or like, you know what I mean, like not complexity, but like the type of religious viewpoint Buddhism and Shinto have are like completely like, they're a little bit, they're not the same kind of religion at all, in the sense that Buddhism is kind of more like a personal, like individual religion based on like our own personal development and understanding of the world, both physical and spiritual, and how we um accept and understand suffering, and how we can evolve our own like mindset and selves like to reach nirvana. Whereas like Shinto is a set of practices that are based around the seasonal year, and especially the harvest. So like, praying for good harvest, and then giving thanks for good harvest, and then praying for blessings in our daily lives, whether that's like usually like material blessings, but also for help with like interpersonal issues or family issues or like love issues, like matchmaking. So it's kind of more like, like kind of more outer, whereas like Buddhism is more inner, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I mean by they're like a little bit different, in the sense that their focus is different, but they managed to come together because they weren't really like in conflict, neither, generally speaking, not really theologically conflict or like daily life conflict. And like the little bit that I know about Buddhism, like I know some Buddhist teachings say that there's like no such thing as like a person's soul, or like there's no such thing as like deities, or like kami-sama basically. So that can be like a theological conflict. But at least the way like Buddhism kind of developed in Japan, there wasn't really that sort of like conflict happening while in like Japanese cultural sphere. Like people who identified as Buddhist would absolutely believe in like the kami-sama's existence and like the mitama-sama's existence and things like that. So it was a little bit like, it kind of changed a lot when it came to Japan. Oh yes, and thank you, Tifa. Tifa-san says that is the ananta, the non-self idea. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I tried to research a little bit more like about Buddhist beliefs like before I came into the stream today. But if there's something that I'm like getting wrong, please let me know. But yeah, like in the Shinbutsu Shugo era, it was very like I want to say like there was a lot of like folk beliefs, like more like local sort of like faiths and practices. And it wasn't like really strictly following like either like particularly like the Shinto traditional rituals, nor was it particularly following like the more like strict Buddhist precepts like monks would. It was very much like I guess that's where we kind of get into like the archetypal like Shinbutsu Shugo, where it was kind of just like like have the statues of the bodhisattvas like in the village, and then have like the Kami-sama shrine with them. And it was kind of like, as far as I understand it, it was just sort of like keeping the spirit of like, like just praying to everybody who seems like powerful and like wise and like above humanity to like protect the village and like give us guidance in the village. So like maybe like in some branches of Buddhism, like like the Buddha himself is not like considered like a deity or anything. And even the bodhisattvas shouldn't be considered as like deities. But in a lot of like smaller local folk style of practices, like they were considered basically deities. And even now to this day, sometimes like you'll see like Fudomyo sama or like Kanon sama, they're like basically considered Kami sama the same way, which is like deities or like powerful like existences that can like help us and guide us and answer prayers. So it kind of like took on that form, which is really interesting. Like the kind of like development in Japan has been really interesting like that. And oh, thank you. And Tifa-san says in early Buddhism, the Buddha didn't have a depiction. Ah, yes, yes, exactly. If correct me if I'm wrong, but I read once that I might be wrong, but like not the scrolls, but like the statues of the Buddha and like the Bodhisattvas. I heard that was influenced from like Greece, like through Greco Buddhism, and like a lot of the kind of like iconography was kind of coming from like the ancient Greek tradition of like making statues of the deities. Like I don't know if that's like accurate. And I'm pretty sure like the scrolls were like earlier than the statues, like the scrolls of like Buddhist art. But I'm not an expert, unfortunately. Like I don't really know completely. So if anyone in the comments would like to like correct me or like let me know, please feel free. Um, but I just know a little bit. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Tifa-san. I think there was some statues depictions, but the scrolls came before statues. Oh, okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, so I remembered correctly. But exactly like it kind of like there was a lot happening with Buddhism and how it changed depending on the culture it interacted with, and like the time period and the history and like the sect of Buddhism that we're talking about. So it's like a whole topic that I am not gonna speak like as if I know about it like an expert, because I don't. But just in relation to like in Japan and Japanese culture and Japanese history, I do know that more in relation to Shinto, just because of like not only the connection it has and like the Konko faith, because that's really relevant here, like for my personal faith as well. But just like in general, like when you research stuff about like topics about Shintoism, I shouldn't say Shintoism, sorry. It's just when you read a lot of academic articles, a lot of them say like Shintoism and Buddhism, the comparative and like it's et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of what came into my head. But yeah, there's a lot of topics about it because it just spans such a long history. But yeah, so that's kind of like the preface of what I wanted to say. Like there was like mixing, but it wasn't like the two religions ever like fully like became one. They were like they had their own separate paths that would like converge, and they would pretty much really converge, like especially in the local the local villages and like the folklore and like folk traditions, everything would get really more like connected like that. I don't want to say like mixed up because it's not like they were doing it like it's not like the people like through history in Japan. It's not like they were doing it like carelessly or like frivolously. There was like reasons why they would connect certain kamisama or like certain traditions together. So it's not like it was kind of like random or like chaotic. It was like there was like reasons for everything. And it was a way for like the people to kind of like reconcile these two big presences in like Japanese culture and like religious bodies in their village and like the authority that they had. And it's interesting too because there was kind of like a whole like you could say like Shinbutsu Shugo or like like Shinbutsu Shugo mixed religious practice, I guess you could say. But it's not like to say it just that would be like diminishing the whole tradition. So I don't want to say it like that. But like as a lot of us know, like Shugendo, that has a lot of elements both from Shinto practices and then Buddhist teachings and beliefs. And then like, a more like folkloric, like mountain faith, um, mountain faith practices, like aestheticism, like, training under the waterfalls with Misogi and climbing the mountaintops and, a lot of like more esoteric hidden knowledge and spiritual beliefs. So Shugendo was kind of like it was kind of like a practice that came out from the culture of like being exposed and not exposed, but being like living with the Shinto practices and the Buddhist teachings and practices. And then combine that with like the faith of the mountain and also deeper spiritual beliefs. And I believe I'm not entirely sure, but there's a little bit of onmyodo as well in Shugendo, but I'm not like entirely sure. Because I haven't like formally trained in Shugendo. So I don't know like if it goes deeper than what I've experienced. But for example, like I actually went to like one training, like a kind of like an introductory training thing with the Shugendo temple in Toronto like 10 years ago. And like what I could say about that was that like it was like Shinto prayers like Harai no Kotoba and a few other Norito. I think it was Amatsu Norito. I can't remember now. It was a long time ago. But we chanted those prayers, and then we also chanted the Heart Sutra, and I think the Lotus Sutra as well. And then we prayed to like Kamisama of the mountain, and like Inario Kamisama, who is connected to the Kiniten Sama. And then we also prayed to Fudomyo Sama, but like as a Kamisama. And like the prayers were like chanted like Norito, but they were like sutras. And we used the prayer beads, but like there was like shimenama around the altar. So there was like a lot of different elements happening in the Shugendo temple. But it wasn't like carelessly mixed around, like not at all. Like everything, if you understood like Shinto and Buddhism, even like surface level like I did at the time, like you would see like everything had a purpose and like everything kind of made sense the way it was like arranged and the way the rituals were written and the way the altar was set. Like everything was like matching the proper tradition for both ways. And it was like put together in like a very like respectful way and then like its own deeper spirituality. So like Shugendo was very like I think it would be like a natural spirituality that came about from Japan's spirituality of Shinto Buddhism and like folklore, and then like a little bit of Onmyodo as well. So like Shugendo is a good example of like what can develop from the Japanese religious and cultural landscape over like hundreds of years, and how it developed and changed. So Shugendo is like a really Like it was and is a tradition that could have only developed from this like unique kind of like religious and cultural sphere that happened over many years. And it's interesting because like between all the religions in Japan over these hundreds of years, like I would say from Asuka period to the end of the Edo period. So we're going from like 600 AD to like about like basically like the late 1700s to early no no sorry the late 1800s or like mid 1800s when like the Meiji era began in like 1868. So like the mid 1800s to like 600 AD. So that's kind of like 12,000 years of like history of like all of these faiths and practices like intertwining together. So like we had Onmyodo Shinto practices. I say practices because like every faith is different. So like there would be like Shinto practices that were like the way you worship the kami-sama, but then like each faith would do something different. So that's why I kind of just say like the practices, and then it would change depending on the faith, like Inari faith, especially because the Inari faith was more connected to Buddhism through the Kinin Sama. And of course, like the Shichi Fukujin Sama as well, like the seven lucky gods, they were also very connected to Buddhism. So that would change a lot as well. But then, like, for example, like Issei faith, there was connection with Buddhism and like Dainichi Naorai, like the great sun Bodhis. I don't know if they're Bodhisattva or Buddha, but like there was connections there. Um, but it never really kind of like influenced, as far as I know, the rituals as much. Like the rituals kind of remained intact because of the connection to the imperial family. So there was like a lot of like unique circumstances depending on which kami-sama and if they were more connected to Buddhism or not as connected to Buddhism. So we had those practices, Shinto practices, and then the Buddhist beliefs, and then that depended on what sect it was as well, because like Tendai sect had like Matarajin sama, and then there was like Zen Buddhism and Nichiren Shu, like the Nichiren Buddhism, and that was like really more like it's also the Nichiren Shu is also like very much its own like practices and like beliefs as well, but like Buddhist based. And there was also like I can't remember all the names, but there was a lot, right? And they all had their own different ways of like approaching things. So that was also like in there. And then we had like Shugendo, and then there was like the folklore practices, like the Kitsune faith was a very like native local faith, kind of like that sprung up over the years. But that again, like that's like 12,000, like 1,200 years of history, and I'm not gonna be able to fit that in like a 2-hour live stream. So I'm not gonna attempt to do that and like butcher it. But just to give you guys like a picture, like if you, like I'm sure you guys already know, but like to those watching after, who may not be as familiar, this is kind of like the general like picture I'm trying to paint of like the history before Meiji. And the thing is too, like in this time there was like all these different practices, and again, like they weren't like mixed up, they were like intertwining with each other, like I would say like crossing paths, you could say. And when they would cross paths, it wouldn't be just like one influences the other, like it would be like for example, like Shinto influences Onmyodo, and like Onmyodo influences Shinto, and then like Buddhism influences Onmyodo, and Buddhism influences Shinto, and like so they were like all like influencing each other like in every direction, and they were like intersecting a lot, but they never like fully mixed up together. They just kind of like were intersecting in many ways. So I hope that like makes that makes sense what I'm trying to say. And let's see, a Vidium Sense comment says, even though Konkokyo and Shugendo teachings are different, I'm glad there would be Shugendo trainings in Russia. Oh, I didn't know that there would be Shugendo in Russia. That's really good. Oh, that's interesting to hear and so good. Yeah, I like that there's more like Japanese religious tradition and spirituality appearing in Russia. So yeah, it's really good. Um, but yeah, like What was I gonna say? Oh, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, like they were all intersecting, and what I wanted to say after that, like sorry, I'm like all happy now. なんだっけ? So ちょっと待って. I know. So like, uh not only like were they intersecting, but like kind of like I don't want to say like new kami-sama, but I guess you could say like new faiths came up from the intersections. So, oh, oh, sorry. Wait, let's see. Can you see my comment before Redeem Sun? Let me see it. Let me see if it loads. Oh, okay, now it loaded. Sorry. Recently, I actually met a Russian woman practicing Shugendo that was officially trained in Japan under Koshiki Dake sensei. Oh, nice. That's good. Yes, yes. So, like, if for those who don't know, Koshiki Dake sensei, he teaches Shugendo like globally more. Like, he has been teaching Shugendo globally for many, many years. And it's a little bit complicated now with how everything has been organized. But basically, he's like the sensei who's taught most of the people, if not all of them, overseas. And including the Toronto temple I went to, Koshiki Dake sensei was like the person who taught the Shugendo priest in Toronto, and like the priest that I met in that like kind of introduction to Shugendo event. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Sensei himself, but like he was like their teacher, and he was like a very strong influence. And he is really dedicated to teaching Shugendo globally and keeping on the traditions. So it's really good to hear like he was able to teach a woman in Russia, or a Russian woman, and that she will, if I'm understanding correctly, that she will bring the teachings to Russia and be able to have students of her own, and that's really good. So it's good to hear that. So I hope that was all the comments. But if I'm missing one, please let me know. But yeah, so like yeah, like in terms of like worship, like there was a lot of kamisama that kind of came about from the intersection of these practices and religions. And like for example, sometimes like one other practice, or like I don't know how to, I don't want to say like it's easy for me to say religion, but then like it might be confusing because like maybe I'm just thinking in like a Japanese language term, because like religion has like a very heavyweight meaning in Japanese. Um, that it kind of like involves like having like teachings and stuff. But I'll just say religion for now. So, like the intersection of these religions would kind of like add new interpretations to already existing figures in other religions. So, for example, like Ame no Minakanushi no Kamisama, like the Kamisama who's like the center of like the universe, basically. Um, this Kamisama got associated to the North Star, as far as I understand it, because of Onmyodo. Because Onmyoji would be looking at the star chart, if you've ever had like a star chart in like school, and then Polaris, like the North Star, is like right in the middle of the star chart because it's the star that looks like it doesn't move when you're observing from Earth. So like the way the Earth is spinning, when you look up, Polaris, like the North Star, doesn't move. So Ame no Minakanushi means like the heavenly Lord in the center of the heavens, or like the skies. And that could have meant like originally like the root kami of the universe, but because of the Onmyoji, like Ame no Minakanushi, the Lord in the center of the heavens, because the North Star is in the center, and it's all the other stars are rotating around it from like our perspective on Earth, that Ame no Minakanushi no Kamisama got associated to the North Star Kamisama, from the Onmyodo influence. So that's kind of like an example of like how like a Kamisama from Shinto beliefs and practices got also a new kind of like understanding and like identity in a way from like the Onmyoji, from their understanding of like the star calendar and like how they would perceive the way that the stars would rotate from the perspective of Earth. So that's also really interesting, like an interesting example. Oh, sorry. Vidium-san says, yes, as I know, she had a talk with Sensei, and he said that she can start sharing Shugendo practicing teachings in Russia. There actually will be a practice in Russian mountains, and oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, that's awesome news. Oh, I wonder like, okay, well, that's so good. Like, I wonder if like, I'm like, there might be someone like, I'm like, I don't think anyone is watching because I'm speaking in English who would like, from Russia, but like just like Vadim-san, you're watching, but like I would like to share the word that if anyone interested in Russia would like to practice or try, that's such a good opportunity because there's like it's so rare, for there to be like Shugendo practice in Russia or even like any sort of, as far as I understand it, any sort of Japanese or religious practice. So that's really good. That's really good news. Please spread the word if you feel it's good. Um, but yeah, that's really cool. And like I personally like just to go off topic a bit. I do like really like Koshikidake Sensei because like even though like I'm Konko Faith and Konko Faith kind of has like there was some Shugenja, like Shugendo practitioners in the history of Konko Faith who didn't really treat Konko Daijin really well. Like some Shugenja from Konko Daijin's village, they kind of like they didn't want him to practice like worshiping Kami-sama and like took down the altar and stuff. Like that's putting it nicely. Like they they like really damaged his altar and like got really angry. Even though there's kind of like that history where like Shugenja didn't really like what the Konko like faith like what the Toritsugi mediators were doing at the time, whether it was Konko Daijin-sama or later on like Konsho Daimyojin-sama or Takashi Tomie Sensei. Um, it's okay because it was just history. Like at least Koshikidake Sensei, he's like no, like I don't have any problem with Konko faith. He's like, that was just history, and everything changed now, and like we can be like we're friends, and like there's like room for like all the practices. So there's no like conflict or anything. So I really appreciated he said that, and he's like, no, like it's cool. Like well, he didn't say like it's cool, but he was like very friendly and like open and understanding of the Konko faith. And of course, like even though I told like the people in Toronto that I was practicing Kongo faith, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's no problem for you to learn like Shugendo, and like it's not an issue. Like you don't have to like give up your faith to practice Shugendo." So it was really nice. Like I really appreciated how friendly they all were. So I'm glad. Like if you need a teacher, like he's a really really good teacher. And I know like there was some history like in the past, like not to get onto into it in stream, but like there's some like history in the past, like maybe um like sometimes like people had like some like conflict with him because of like various situations. Nothing like serious, like seriously, like really really bad, like criminally bad. But like people had clashes with Sensei. But I honestly think like ultimately has a really good heart, and he just really wants to teach people Shugendo genuinely. So I think he's a good person to learn from, and learning from his students is really good too. Sorry, I just wanted to say that because we're on the topic. But yeah, and like because I have personal experience with like his students and like that time in Toronto, and like learning hands-on like his curriculum and like program. It was really nice. It was a really good time. So I'm really glad for that. But yeah. So what else? Like oh sorry. So like going back to Shinbutsu Shugo time, there was some other like kami-sama as well. Like for example, like even in shrines, sometimes like they would kind of get a new identity like in the shrine itself too. And I don't really know like if you could consider it like purely Buddhist or like purely Shinto. It was kind of like it was like almost like folkloric. For example, like Susano no Mikoto-sama and the connection with Gozu Tenno. So like at Yasaka Jinja or like Gion, the whole like Gion faith with and that Gion faith was connected to Susanoo no Mikoto sama, who was connected to Gozo Tenno sama. And they were basically, the whole faith was around like curing of epidemics, and especially smallpox at the time, which was like really rampant over the years. So like that's kind of an example of another like intersection of the religions, and it developing into its own kind of faith that's like very unique. And like for a particular like situation, for example, like smallpox. So that's like another kind of example of how like all of these religions intersected to a very like unique situation. I don't know how to explain it, but and you can't really define it with like, it wasn't really like Shinto itself, and it wasn't really like Buddhist itself. It was kind of like born from the people's religious perspectives and experiences. So that's another kind of like interesting thing that happened in the Shinbutsu Shugo era. And like there was other situations too. For example, like, so you know how like Buddhism believes in like, or sorry, not believes in, like that sounds weird to say, but you know how Buddhism has the belief of like reincarnation? And the way this has been understood over time has been very like convoluted. But basically, like in Japan, it basically means like, you know, you're gonna like, if you die, you're gonna have like a next life and you come back and like a new person. And I know like at some point they believed like, I don't know if it was like reincarnation or if it was like incarnation, but like I do know like in the Sengoku period, like some people would say like, for example, like Uesugi Kenshin, he was like the like one of the prominent warlords of the time of the Uesugi clan. And people would say like he was like the reincarnation or like the incarnation, I don't remember, of Bishamonten sama. And that wasn't like, it was kind of like saying like Bishamonten sama's spirit, or like or like, I don't know how to explain it. Like I guess spirit is best. Was kind of like living through Uesugi Kenshin. And I think they called it Daigongen sama, like Gongen, which was like incarnation, I think. But I don't remember exactly. Like this is, I'm like trying to like pull the deepest memory that I remember. But that was like another example of like how people's like intersection of faith would kind of like inspire like even beliefs towards the prominent figures through history. um I don't remember. Oh my gosh, like there was then that happened a lot in the Sengoku period because it was like a very chaotic time, and like the warlords of the clans were like larger than life, and they like, people put their lives like for their survival on these men, and like their identity and their survival and like their community and people, like everything was relying on like these men in the Sengoku period who were like warring with each other. So that's why it was like a really huge thing. And even now, like they're worshipped as kami-sama, like Mitama no kami-sama. Like every warlord kind of has their own shrine. Especially like Oda Nobunaga, he kind of has like even like like a like not just one Mitama shrine, but like many branches. So that also happened as well. Like these beliefs and these intersections. Trying to think what else, but like basically stuff you wouldn't really consider at all to happen like in the modern time, like after Meiji era. Like there was so much happening like pre-Meiji with like the intersection of all these religions, especially because all of them kind of had like their own prominence in different ways, and all of them had like a connection to like powerful people, and like the government and like the emperor. So like all of them had like a very high connection, and that would influence the people, like the common people, even more. So like I remember reading like in one point in history, like Buddhism had more influence, so like everything became more Buddhist. And then at one point in history, like Shinto had more influence, so like the imperial shrine and like Ise Jingu had more like influence. And that was especially after the Sengoku period, like with the Tokugawa shogunate, like that kind of came up more. But then the Tokugawa shogunate was also like Tendai Buddhist, so it was like it's like very confusing, like very convoluted. But what I'm trying to like summarize here, because we have limited time, is that like each religion had their strong influence that would influence in turn like the people's like local beliefs and understandings and the way that they would understand these different religions in their own lives. So it was kind of like it was like complex like that and depended on the time period as well and like what was happening at the time and so many other situations. And like so what I wanted to kind of get to as well is that like for example like in Konkokyo and like Konko faith, for example like alongside Konjin sama who comes originally from like Onyodo religion, we also worship Nitenshi sama and Gatenshi sama. And these kami-sama are like they're like technically, as far as I understand it, they technically came from like I feel like they came from Hinduism, like really far into it, but then really it came from Buddhism when they came to Japan. And it was kind of like it's kind of like the essences of the sun and the moon. But like when I research it, it's very like convoluted. Like I researched one thing that said like they were understood as like the spirits of the sun and moon, like the mitama of the sun and moon. But then I researched another thing and it said they were just like the name for like the sun and moon itself. And then I researched something else and it said like they were just like it was kind of like a polite way to like refer to like something in like a sutra, like like really like more politely. And I was like very confused. So I'll probably have to do more research. I didn't have a lot of like I had lots of time to research, but I don't think it's enough at this point in time. So I'm gonna keep researching more, and I've tried to research more, even like on the Konko side, but I don't really know 100%. But as far as I understand it, I do know like for Konko Daijin sama, like Nitenshi sama and Gatenshi sama were basically like the pure sun and moon. So like of course Kokodaji sama knew about the existence of Amaterasu Omikami sama. Like she's mentioned in the Gorikai, she's mentioned in the Kyoten as Tensho Kotaijin sama. And you know, she was known as like a kami-sama of the sun and like the imperial family and Issei Jingu, like all of that was already known in Kongodaiji sama's time. And of course, like so was Tsukiyomi no Mikoto sama, like the generally understood to be like the moon kami-sama. So, like, why didn't Kongodaijin-sama like decide to worship Amaterasu Mikami-sama and Tsukiyomi no Mikoto-sama to represent the sun and the moon? Well, it's because that Nitenshi-sama and Gatenshi-sama, they weren't like they weren't like, you know, particular kami-sama connected to the imperial family, like in the ancestral sense. And they had and like for example, like Amaterasu Omikami-sama also has like a lot of other like aspects to her, like you know, weaving, like textiles, like war and like politics and like harvest and things like that. But as for Nitenshi-sama, like it was just the sun, like the sun itself. So if I were to make like a Western studies comparison, it would kind of be like the difference between like Helios, like the god, like the sun that is the god, like sorry, the god that is the sun itself, versus like Apollo, who's like connected to the sun and he's like very like a sun deity, but he's also like a god of like prophecy and like music and like hunting and etc. So it's kind of like the difference between like Apollo and Helios. We have the difference between like Amaterasu Omikami-sama and like Nitenshi-sama. So as far as we understand it, that's why Kongo Daijin-sama like worshipped Nitenshi-sama and Gatenshi-sama, because it was like the pure, like the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon together in traditional understanding represented like all of the heavens itself. So like the whole like cosmos. Like it was a way to kind of like symbolically show the whole cosmos. It's kind of like our modern like Milky Way. Like if we show the Milky Way or like nebula and like you know like a whole bunch of stars at once, we kind of understand that as like the universe as a whole. But like back in like the Edo period, like the sun and the moon was like that image of like the whole like starry cosmos, Milky Way kind of feeling. And then of course like Konjin-sama and Kane no Kami-sama was like the earth. And then so that's why it was like ten chi and then Kane to relate it to Konjin-sama no Kami. So that means like the whole Kami-sama, excuse me, the whole like you could say like Kane can be like gold, and it was related to Konjin-sama, but it was also like Kane can also be read as like a way to like connect things, like intertwine things. So it Kane has like a dual meaning between like gold in relation to Konjin-sama, like the way Konjin-sama's name is generally written, and Kane no Kami-sama. But also Kane can represent like the intersection of and the intertwining, like the interweaving of things. And I think like Kane no Kami-sama can also be understood as like the Kami-sama who like interweaves things together. But basically it's giving this image of like all of the universe like connected together, and to include the skies, to include the 10, like 10 as in like this kanji, sorry, like 10, that I say heavens, but I don't mean like, you know, like heaven as in like clouds in the sky. It means just like the whole like Milky Way cosmos, stars kind of thing. So that's why we know like Kokodaji-sama chose Nitenshi-sama and Gatenshi-sama. But here's something interesting, is that the way he writes those names is not with the typical, like, I'm sure some of you guys know already. It's not with the typical, there's a kanji. Well, I'm just going to write it because it's easier to see. So the one at the end is like she, and it basically means like, it can mean like child in some context, but it can also mean like just referring to like an existence, I guess. Like it's like an archaic way to refer to like an existence, like a noble existence in a way. But then later on, like it kind of would be applied to like a diminutive sense, but it has like a complex history. But basically, like she, like Nitenshi and Gatenshi, kind of just means like heavenly moon, heavenly sun. Like that's all the name means, or like sun of the heavens and like moon of the heavens. Like that's kind of what it's trying to refer to, like the names. But the way Konkodaiji-sama writes it is that he replaced the shi, like the last kanji, with the kanji for 4, like the number 4, and which is also pronounced shi. So it's like the same pronunciation, but he replaces it with 4. And when I talked to the scholars at the Research Institute Kenkyusho in Konkotown, they don't like they weren't really like entirely sure why, like 100% sure exactly why he changed the kanji. But their like educated theory was that he often references 4 as like not meaning like 4 as in she, and it doesn't mean death as in she, like the kanji for death, which is like, sorry, it's also pronounced she, which is like this. Like he says like don't think of she as death, but think of it as like shiawase, which is like happiness. Sorry, oh my gosh, I just want to show you guys the kanji. So shiawase, like happiness. And so like 4 was not meant to be like a number that you would like avoid or like detest or like feel like it's bad luck, I guess. It just is like the word when you hear she, you shouldn't think of like something bad or like scary. Just think of like shiawase, like blessings, like good things. So the researchers at Kenkyusho thought, because he's often referring to 4 as in like the she, as in like shiawase, like happiness, it might have been a reference to that, but they're not like 1,000, 100% like this is the answer. And it's still a subject of debate, like trying to research more. So that's kind of like they're not really sure why, but it's kind of the working theory right now. Okay, so Vadim-san says Nitenshi and Gatenshi wasn't the only way how Kyoso-sama referred to the sun and moon. There was also Hinokami and Tsukinokami, and many Kyoso-sama's original titles were Sun and Moon. Oh yes, yes, exactly. So like, that's what I mean. Like, the reason he originally said like Nitenshi-sama and Gatenshi-sama is because they're like just the pure essences of like the sun and the moon, like based on that Shinbutsu Shugo understanding. Like it wasn't referring to like a particular kami-sama, like Amaterasu no Kami-sama or Tsukimi no Mikoto-sama. And then like when he says the words Hinokami and Tsuki-no-kami, it just means kami of the sun, kami of the moon. So like the same nuances there. Like he just wanted to show people it wasn't like a particular kami-sama, because maybe some people misunderstood that he was referring to Nitenshi-sama as like a particular kami-sama. But like as far as I understand it, he was trying to refer to the sun and the moon like itself, like what you see in the sky, like not like some other, like not like another kami-sama, but just like the like physical, like real sun that we see and how they represent like the whole universe. So like I think that's what like I think that is why, because that is what I've learned like in Kenkyusho, like in the Research Institute. Like when we were talking about the subject of like who is Nitenshi-sama and Gatenshi-sama, because it feels like they're more like obscure compared to Konjin-sama, who's more like Konjin-sama, Kane no Kami-sama, and all the other Konjin-samas. They have kind of a more like clear identity and like connection to Kyoso-sama. But then Nitenshi-sama and Gatenshi-sama are kind of more like vague. And that's what I was taught, was that because he's like actually referring, like he's trying to show people it's like the actual like cosmos, like sun and moon, not like a particular kami-sama connected. So that's why nowadays, like nowadays in Kongo faith, like, and especially even back then, honestly, like Kyoso-sama's time, like basically Konjin-sama is like Tenchika no Kami-sama. Like they're basically the same, like in general understanding. I know not everyone in Kongo faith will agree with me, but like I feel like that's kind of what you see a lot in the Kyoten and like in research and like what other senseis kind of been saying. So like that's kind of where I'm coming from. I know not everyone's gonna agree, or like they have their own interpretations. I just gotta put that out there. But that's kind of why like the connection between at least Konjin Sama and Tenchika no Kami Sama and like the Konjins is very close. Whereas like the sun and the moon part is kind of more like, I don't want to say it's like symbolic, but more like, it's just the sun and the moon. It's not like a kami of the sun and the moon, if that makes sense. So that's another interesting thing where it's kind of like maybe also like my theory, like I also think personally maybe he also changed the kanji to 4, like the last kanji to 4, to like distinguish between like the like Buddhist Hindu connected Nitenshi and Gatenshi to like the Konko nuance and context of Nitenshi and Gatenshi. Maybe he changed it to like show the distinction as well between them, and then that's why he changed the names, like not change the names, but refer to them with different names in different contexts, because he wanted to teach people like Tenchi Kana no Kami-sama is Nitenshi Gatenshi Kana no Kami-sama, and Nitenshi and Gatenshi is not like, it's not like 3 Kami-samas, but it's like Konjin-sama with the sun and the moon. That's kind of like the nuance that I think I see a lot. But again, like I'm still researching too. I don't really like I can't claim to know exactly what Konko Daijin-sama like wanted to convey 100%, because I won't know. Because I can't ask him, unfortunately. But just kind of looking through the Kyoten and like talking to senseis and like research in the Research Institute, we like talked about it and like debated about it. And like you said, like Vadim-san, like he uses so many different titles. That's kind of like my understanding right now. So it might change in the future, but that's kind of like the interesting thing about it. And even though like again, like even though Kyoso-sama, like Konkodaiji-sama, he like grew up in the Edo period where everything was very Shinbutsu Shugo and like the Onmyodo influence. And he went to the Buddhist temples, he went to the Shinto shrines, so like he would like have a direct experience of everything. So he would absolutely know like the difference between like the traditional Nitenshi and Gatenshi, like in terms of like the understanding from like the Buddhist side or like the Shinbutsu side versus like what he was trying to convey, the kamisama, like who the kamisama he was praying to was, and like their essence. So I think maybe that might be the difference, especially because he lived in that time, so he would like understand more deeper than like us now, because like obviously I'm like a Canadian born person living in Japan for like 9 years. Like it's like not comparable compared to someone born and raised in like rural like Japan, like living the life of like a folk, like the folk village, the folk traditions, um knowing the shrines and temples at the time before Meiji, like is completely incomparable. So but I'm trying to understand, like I want to understand what his understandings were. So but it's very hard. um Williamson says also, yeah, I think some people might think that we worship Nitenshi and Gatenshi, same as in Shinbutsu Shugo. Ah, yes, yes. Yeah, like, yeah, that's the complicated part. Because, like, when I searched up like, on the Konko Kyo Wikipedia, for example, just to go on a little bit of a side street here, but, like, on the Konko Kyo Wikipedia, like, when we mention Nitenshi and Gatenshi, like, it links to the Japanese page for the Shinbutsu Shugo Nitenshi and Gatenshi. And I think that kind of helps for, like, a historical understanding, but, it might be confusing because it might feel like it's, like, those specific ones. And, like, I'm not saying that, like, the sun and the moon themselves aren't kami-sama, because of course, like, hi no kami, tsuki no kami, like, the physical, like, sun and the physical moon itself are, like, they should be recognized as kami in their own right. And I think, like, in some contexts, the name Nitenshi and the name Gatenshi can refer to that, but because there's also another understanding of them from the Shinbutsu time, I think it's kind of like it might cause confusion, because for example, like in Japan, like people call the moon like Otsuki-sama or Ohi-sama, like even now, like calling them by like that kind of name. But like it doesn't mean that they're referring to Tsukiyomi no Mikoto-sama all the time. Like some people might be referring to Tsukiyomi no Mikoto-sama when they say Otsuki-sama, but they might not be. They might just be like referring to like the moon itself. So that's kind of like, there's like a nuance there, and I feel like if we explain it, or like if we just kind of like have like a base explanation without like going deeper into it, it can cause some misunderstandings. So I think it's like maybe just like I think it's something I have to like add a footnote on in the wiki or something. Because like again, there's like yaoyorozu no kami, like everything can be a kami-sama. So or like is part of kami-sama, and it can be a kami-sama like recognizes their own kami. So even if there's like a kami-sama connected or like has or like is of essence of the moon and sun, it could also the sun and the moon themselves can also be understood as kami-sama. So that's kind of like there's like a nuance there. Sorry. Somebody says, but after all, the most important is to understand how three kami-sama is actually Tenchika no Kami, universe where everything works together as one. Ah, yes, exactly. Like, yeah, like the three together is like Tenchika no Kami-sama. Like the image of like the whole working together is important. And that's another thing that was kind of like complex too, because like back in the day, like for example, when I went to some like older kyokai or like rokujoin kyokai's like old hiromai, they actually had like the three like shrine doors. So like it was like the central door and then like the two little doors, and it would be like not like it would be in the kami altar here. So here we have only one door, But like the older altars might have like three doors. So that can also be like confusing. Like it was like three separate kami-sama worshipped like in the same space rather than like the three together as Tenshika no Kami-sama. This one, like here in Yokosuka Kyokai, like the one door kind of shows that more. Like it's just like Tenshika no Kami-sama and also Higami Konko Daijin-sama, but like that's a little bit more nuanced too. But for simplicity's sake, like that's why we only have the one door. Um, and then like, but then some other people would see like the three separate doors and think like they're worshipped separately in the same space, kind of like another jinja where they have like, for example, like three Gosaijin, and so there's like the three doors, but like they might be referred to as a collective, but here it's kind of more like it's closer than that. So there's like all these sorts of little nuances that's like really difficult to explain. Like it's really hard to explain like overseas. And I think you can understand it more like when you like see it for yourself, like either in like pictures or like you come to the shrine. But like explaining it like through word or like through text is like really difficult because like there can be like connections made in the explanation that you didn't really think of that people would make. So it's like, oh no, like I have to explain more deeper. So it's kind of complicated like that. But regardless, like just like in the Shinbutsu Shugo kind of world and culture, there could have also been situations like that where like in order to express the kami-sama being worshipped, people would try to use like particular known names, um, but it wasn't always like accurate. So another example of this is kind of like with Inari-sama, Inari Okami-sama, like we talked about, I think in the meeting last time with Tifa-san, that like there was like a whole bunch of like fox faith and fox worship, but they just called it like Inari-sama because Inari Okami-sama is connected to the foxes. Even though like it was like different, completely different like nuance behind that, they used the name as like a sort of like reference and understanding like what they were trying to convey of this like kami-sama, but it wasn't always like perfectly accurate description. So it's a little like complicated like that in that era. I'm trying to think like of other examples, but I feel like the problem is too like in a lot of like how we're taught scholarship or like academics in like Western culture, like Western countries, at least like in like Canada and America and like other parts of Europe, it's like there's kind of the influence where like things are very like more like this is this and this one is this and like kind of like more like categorized, like more like structured, I guess. Like I don't know how to explain it, but and this kind of like scholarship actually tried to be applied at least to Shinto practice with like the Kokugaku scholars like Atsutane and like other scholars, and they tried to kind of like categorize and like explain theologically like Shinto as a whole, like the whole practices and like how it was like categorically understood and like organized. But the problem is that like Shinto practices and like beliefs, it kind of is like a mix between like religion, but also like a mix between like folklore in a way. It kind of reminds me of like how we talk about like cryptids in like or like fae folk or like like folklore stuff in like Europe and North America. It's kind of like meshing between like religion, like a structured religion and traditions with like the folklore side. And I'm not even talking about like yokai stuff. Like I mean like kami-sama and like worship. It was like very like it could get very like folklore-ish, you know? So like for example, you might hear about like I'll just draw my own example. So like I remember there was some like tradition that we used to do with my mom and my grandma where like you would have to leave like I forgot what it was, but you had to leave like it was like really early on in my childhood where like you left like milk out and cookies, like not for Santa Claus, but for like the fairies whenever you were baking something. And like there was like a little like basically like a little shrine for like the fairies and like the house spirits and stuff. And like in Canada and like Europe, that's kind of like a cute it's like half cute, half superstition, half like it's good to do because of tradition. It's like there's a lot of reasons that this like these traditions still exist and these like beliefs like are still practiced. And even if it's like a fun way, it might not be super serious. But like in Japan, like with Shinto, especially in like before Meiji, like people would do these kind of like practices for like the local kamisama or like local spirits or like local traditions, but it would be like considered like religious, like the same level as religious. So it might seem like a little like fairy thing, but it's not. It's like the same level as like proper like formal rituals at like the jinja with like the priests and everything. Like these two types of worship were like considered the same level of like importance to do. And there's like the more kind of like fairy smaller traditions were like for the local people in the village, like the people who were living with these kamisama in their village day to day. And maybe they were like too far from a priest or too far from the city to like call a priest over. So like this is the way that they could respect the kamisama of the land and the time. Um, and so like that's kind of where it gets complicated because like there's a lot of like mixing stuff, not mixing stuff, but like like more folklore focused stuff like this, and then like the religious side. So like even if you try to categorize like Shinto academically in like the Western sense or like a more scholarly sense, it kind of like you're missing, you end up missing pieces. So I don't know how to explain this, but like it's really difficult for me to explain. I've been trying to explain it for like years, but let me see if I can try. Wish me luck. So like imagine like this whole blanket is like what we would call like Shinto practices in Japan, and we have like the formal rituals and like the altar and like all this stuff, and then we have like like it kind of goes into like the smaller like shrines in the village. I don't even know what I'm doing, but like imagine it's like this whole big picture basically. Like you have the rituals and the shrine, and then it's like kind of like mixing up, and then there's like the rural practices and like the fairy type of practices. And like when it gets like in a scholarly sense, like there's like divisions that happen. So like let's say like this, and then like this is this, and then this is this. So like if I were to slice it up, I would make like these little sections, right? But when this happens, like little pieces of the whole picture get like lost in the attempt to like categorize or like understand it like categorically, and like pieces of it get lost like of the whole picture. So even like back in the day with like kokugaku scholars, and even till now, when like it tries to get like categorically understood, like whether it's like historically or like now how everything is organized, like pieces of it, like pieces of the nuance of the whole picture get lost and they kind of like fall to the wayside. So that's kind of why like that's why it's really really difficult, because when you try to explain certain concepts or certain understandings, it's kind of like trying to pick the pieces back up and like put it all together again, like reform the blanket. um and it makes everything really complicated. But I think it's important to try to explain that, and especially for like at least for me because of Konko faith, because like Konko Daijin sama was practicing the whole, like he knew the whole big picture like innately because he grew up in that culture, and he was living in his village like through all these practices, and like knowing all these little things like this, like even just innately, like even if he didn't write about it, like he knew all these little things, like when he prayed to like the smallpox kami-sama, like Gion-sama, and like in the Kyoten, like he talks about like the service days, like the ceremony days for certain kami-samas. And he mentions the North Star kami-sama, and like he was extremely educated. Like he also studied in like culture and language, and like he consulted the onmyoji. So like he knew like a lot of stuff, even if it's not like directly in the like the Kyoten, like the books of Konkodaiji-sama. But if like what I'm trying to say is that like when we think about the Shinbutsu Shugo era, and like the what I know from like very surface level from like Konkodaiji-sama's writings is that there was a lot of like I don't want to say complicated, but you like what I'm trying to say is that I could not understand it by trying to like put it in sections. Like, okay, this is a folklore thing, like this is like the shrine thing, and this is like the Buddhist thing. Like when I tried to understand it like that, I kept like missing pieces. And so like nowadays, like maybe like in the last like 3 years, 4 years, I'm trying to see like the whole picture of this era and this time period, and then like how was Kongo Daiji-sama understanding in his time too. But like again, like I don't think I'll ever really know because I haven't lived there, and like I'm not fluent in Japanese, let alone like Edo period Japanese. But I'm gonna keep trying. But like what I'm trying to convey to you guys here is that like um when we talk about like Shinbutsu Shugo stuff, like Shinbutsu Shugo era, Shinbutsu Shugo practices, and even to modern times, it's so important to like look at the whole big picture, like the whole understanding, like trying to understand everything like in a historical sense, and like the academic sense, and like the cultural sense, and the folklore sense, like get everything as like a one big picture. Sorry, like one big picture, rather than trying to understand it like in like each section. Because I tried to do that, and I felt like it was like there's always something missing. Like I explained, like there's like pieces missing from it. And again, like even like looking at traditional scholars, there would be things like missing from like the actual practices. Because we have to understand like there's a difference between like a Kokugaku scholar, and then like a person who was like a local farmer, like Kongodaijin-sama, who like was just like he wasn't like trained as like a specific priest or like a Buddhist monk. Like he was just a farmer in his village, and this was his like religious and spiritual practices and understandings. So like and that era, it was like very it was very like again like just there was a lot of intersectionality happening, and it depended on a lot of different factors, uh like to understand what was happening in the religious sense and like cultural sense. So when my friend asked me like could you explain about like the Shinbutsu Shugo era on stream, and I was like that's a big like that is a big topic, but it's a good topic. But ultimately like I won't try to pretend like I can explain 1200 years of history and like explain it perfectly, but I did want to offer like my perspective in how I've studied this era, and like my personal experience of understanding this era through the Konko faith and through Konko Daijin Sama, and then understanding from that like how it like when I tried to understand it piece by piece, it was very like losing pieces, but then you look at the whole picture and then it comes more together. So and I want to learn more, of course, like there's still so much to learn. And honestly, I've learned the most, like it that time makes the most sense to me when I read the Kyoten, like Konko Daijin Sama's writings, more than like an academic, like a historical academic perspective of that era. And I think it makes more sense to me because Konko Daiji Sama was like a common person, like he was an average person, like in his daily life. Like he wasn't writing from a perspective of like academic record or like cultural record. He was just writing his like experiences, right? Like his daily experiences, his like daily life, like in like a journal and like his notebook, and then like the teachings that were recorded given to the other people who were just living their daily lives. And I think that brings like a really valuable perspective, just because it was like his daily life, right? It wasn't like written to be read, I guess. He just wrote it for his own record. And that's why it feels more like vivid understanding of that time and those perspectives. So, honestly, I want to say that like even if you're not like want, or if you don't feel really like a connection to Konko faith, or like want to practice it more, I feel like if you want to understand about the Shinbutsu Shugo time, like reading both like Kongo Daiji Sama's biography and like the Kyoten, it's like an invaluable perspective to someone living in that era, like their like direct thoughts and their direct feelings of living in that time. It's like very like it's like a very like direct source and like direct perspective. And a lot of people misunderstand like, oh, the Kyoten is just like the Bible, I guess, of Konko faith, but like no, it's really like Konko Daijin Sama's like journal and like his diary, Oboegake Oboecho, and then like the teachings. Of course, people would come from their own daily like problems and then ask to like receive guidance through Toritsugi mediation. For example, like I remember one teaching that mentions like Sanbo Sama, like the three kami-sama of the grains, and like it's mentioned so casually in the teaching, and I had never heard of this like kami-sama, or like this belief or like this understanding. So that's like one example of like what is Sanbo Sama, like they said, for example, excuse me, like if you trample the grains or like you hurt the grains, like Sambo Sama will like make you like go blind. Like Sambo Sama's tatari is like you'll go blind or you can't see anything. And I'm like, I've never even heard this in like modern Japan, like among the farmers. So like, and I never heard it in anything like an academic perspective of the Edo. It's like not only Edo period, but like religious beliefs in the Edo period and beyond. Like I never heard of this like it's kind of like a local, maybe more widespread, but like not really in the academic records. So it's like very interesting. Like things like that is so like invaluable to learn, like so important to learn, and like I'm thankful that these like records exist. So it's really interesting like that. Tiff-san says it is a lot of time to cover. Yes, it's a long period of time and lots of changes in between, and lots of interesting like situations as well. Like, sorry, let me take a drink for a second. Like for example, I keep saying you know, like yokai, right? Like a lot of people think yokai are just like, you know, bad spirits or like evil spirits or like something like that, you know. And I explained once that yokai are kind of like a spirit that makes you feel like uneasy. Like it makes you feel like a kind of uneasy feeling or like something strange. It's not really like a class of spirit, but it's like a feeling a spirit can give you. But then like there's yokai shrines, right? Like there's shrines to like Oni and Kappa and Tengu and these kinds of things. So people are like, why is there shrines to like not gods? Like, you know what I mean? Like people think yokai are like demons or like spirits and they're not gods. So but shrines are for gods, and it's like no, because the whole thing is like, again, there's like the intersection of understandings and like religions and perspectives. So, you know, like Tengu ended up becoming associated with the Shugenja because the Tengu live on the mountain. And then some of them were seen as like guardians of the mountain. So like they were revered by the Shugenja. And then the Shugenja made like jinja to the Tengu and like things like that. Or like maybe someone in the village, they like felt there was like a kappa in the river, but then like the kappa protected the river from flooding the village. So then the the kappa was worshipped as a kami-sama and a jinja, and like so like the whole like perspective on like the life with these like this like spiritual understanding and like religious understanding is like its own kind of like, again, like that whole picture to understand. But if you try to understand it from the perspective of like, shrines are for gods, yokai are the evil spirits, that kind of like categorized understanding, again, like you like things will start to not make sense. Like, why does a kappa have a jinja? Or like, why does a tengu have a jinja? So it's kind of like that interesting understanding that comes about from like a lot of ways people approach um like Japanese culture and religion. So not anyone here in the chat, like everyone here in the chat knows what's up, but like I mean, like in general speaking, there's like just my experience with other people. There's always a lot of confusion and like questions because of the way like it has been approached historically in terms of like academic understanding and like research and like sharing the knowledge. Especially especially again, like we're talking about Shinbutsu time, like before the Meiji period, but then like after the Meiji period, um there was a lot of that like westernization and like Western influence. So there was a lot of that like categorization happening, with like again, like even with the Kyoha Shintos faiths, like that was like a whole category, and then like the folk Shinto practices, that was a category, and then like at the time it was like the state government shrines, but then it changed to Jinja Honcho, so that's like another category. And then of course like Kokugaku, like the scholarship, it became very like westernized to like Western scholarship standards. And unfortunately, like a lot of the old knowledge from like Onmyoji and like Onmyodo and even the Shugenja, like all of that was like taken out. Like all of these traditional understandings and these traditional perspectives were completely like shut down by the government and kind of like replaced in favor of a more like Western structure. And like even the whole government completely revamped to like the Western structure. So like I'm not even talking about like modern day like scholars at all, because like I honestly feel like the scholars in the last like 10 to 20 years have been like amazing. And I'm so thankful for them. But also like what I mean is like by like scholars from like the early 1900s to maybe like the 19 like post World War II scholars, you can see like there's so much like Western cultural influence in this scholarship and like understanding and like how to explain these traditions and like religious history of like Japanese Buddhism, Shinto practices, Onmyodo, Shugendo, and like a whole bunch of other like folkloric understandings became like really like changed how that was understood. And again, like Meiji, like from the Meiji era, didn't itself wasn't that long, but like the structure of it lasted a long time. So like from 1868 all the way to like 1945, the end of World War II. So it's like a long period in itself. And with like three wars, there was like the Russo-Japanese War, World War II, World War One, World War II, and that was a whole thing too. So and like how Japanese religion was perceived and understood in that time. That is kind of like the section that exists between the Shinbutsu Shugo time and our modern time. So that's kind of like there's like this whole part that kind of like we can't connect as easily to Shinbutsu time because there's like this whole part of like Meiji era to like end of World War II that's like you have to like kind of go around and like understand, including this part. But of course, like to really understand, you have to like go all the way back um, before this part. So it's like very difficult as well. Oh, sorry, thank you. Vidim-san says Sambo-sama means three treasures, and in the teaching, Kyoso-sama explains that it's Kane no Kami, Hi no Kami, and Tsuki no Kami. They are the three treasures of the universe. Oh, yes, Sambo. And as I remember the teachings, there's explanation that rice is called Sambo because it grows thanks to three Tenchi Kane no Kami's blessings, light, water, and soil. Oh, yes, yes. So thank you so much for explaining. Yes. I remember, yes, Sambo is also interesting because it's the same name for these offering trays. Like behind me, you'll see like the tray with like the three jewels. It's the same name and same kanji. So it's like interesting as well on this topic. What I've also researched is that like because Sambo is what you use to give the offering of gratitude to Kami-sama. So in a way, like Sambo-sama is also kind of like the meaning of like the three treasured Kami-samas, also like giving you the blessings the same way like we offer in gratitude the blessings that they give us on the Sambo, that the three Kami-sama, Tenchi Kano Kami-sama, through these three Kami-sama, the Sambo-sama, give us okage, like the blessings in turn. But and yes, the connection to rice is also why like we have such a tradition with the Goshinmai as well. Like not only from the three blessings of light, water, and soil, and also the sun and the moon, and we also sprinkle sake. Like how to make Goshinmai, like we dry it in the sun, we wash it with sacred water and dry it in the sun, and then leave it out in the nighttime, and then sprinkle sacred sake on it. So like the water and the sake are also representative of the earth, and then the sun and the moon, like the three together again, like the three blessings for Goshinmai. And I feel like though I remember like so like that like thank you for the explanation and then like the connection to it as well. I wanted to mention as well. Thank you so much. But I also feel like maybe I'm misremembering, but I remember in like Reverend Takashi Tomiya Sensei's biography, did she also mention the Sambo sama? Like I don't remember, but or maybe that was Tano Kami. I'm not sure, but um. Oh yes, yes. Vidim senses, and I guess in some teachings, heaven, earth, and humanity was also called three treasures. I guess yes, exactly. Basically, like there's a lot of patterns. Like just on the topic, there's a lot of patterns of like the three. Um, like three is like completeness. From the Konko faith, usually in the teachings, like the like three is like kind of I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it's complete. It's like the whole. It's a whole. It's like I guess like how you would make like a triangle or like I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like it's just like the whole together. So you'll see it a lot of times, like three patterns repeating in teachings, whether that's like through Tenchi no Kami-sama, any Tenchi ga Tenchi Kan no Kami-sama, or Sambo-sama, or there's a few other, I can't recall now. But yes, thank you so much for sharing with everyone too. But I need to go back now because now I'm maybe I misremembered it, but like I feel like I saw something like about Sambo Sama that was like connected to the like it was part of Konko Faith, of course, but then there was like it was like someone, it was like the usual teaching where like someone knew about them. Maybe it was like a different kanji. But then, like, they told Kyoso-sama, they told Konko Daijin-sama, and then he related, like, he told like, Sambo-sama is three treasures, is Tenchiku no Kami-sama. But, like, let me review it, because maybe I misremembered with Tano Kami-sama, which, Tano Kami, sorry. Tano, oh my god, Ta is, like, the rice field. Tano, I don't think there's the no there. Oh my god. Sorry, I said that too fast. Maybe I'm mixing up Sama with Tano Kami, like Kami of the Fields, maybe. But now I'm trying to remember because sorry. Kibidinsa says there's a Buddhist kitchen deity, Sambo Dai Kojin, Sambo, same kanji. daikojin. Kojin means like rough kamisama, but it refers to like the kitchen kamisama. Like I know you know Vadim-san, but like for those watching later or now, maybe referring to him, but I don't really remember him in Kyoten. Maybe I'm like getting wires crossed. I'm trying to think because I remember I'm thinking of a particular thing, and maybe I just like mixed up either like Tanokami and then like thought of it with because it was part of Takashi Tomi Sensei's biography. That's what it wasn't like I know that Kyoten mentioned Sambo Sama. Like I'm not like in terms like the teaching you mentioned, but I feel like there was something, and maybe it wasn't in the translator. Anyway, okay, like I don't want to meander too much on the stream, but I'm gonna look into that after and check, and then talk about it next time. Because now I'm curious. Because now it's bothering me. I'm like, wait, I can't remember now. But anyway, the important part of that teaching with Sambo Sama was that, as you said, Vadim-san, it was like the important part was to remember the blessings of like rice in terms of how it represents the blessings of the universe working together. So that was the most important part, honestly. Like I remember always like the core message of the teaching, but then I'm like the lore, it like skips my head so much. But I've been recently trying to like sit down again with like the Kyoten, like researching more like deeper. Just because like I know like that's the problem is like when you've been like working in the Kyokai so long, like we're always reading the Kyoten, but it's in the context of like how to like what teaching to kind of like relate to in Toritsugi or like in the sermon or like daily reflection. So it's kind of like you kind of just kind of focus on like the core teachings and then how you apply that to your daily life and connection with Kamisama. But then like all the important like historical side kind of like gets more like fuzzy, like it gets kind of like fuzzy and then like events like mixed together. So I'm like, oh my god, like now I'm trying to like go back and like make a firmer timeline in my head because it's been a while since I've done that. And now I'm like, I don't want to like mix up so many events. Like it's important for me to remember it more solidly because like especially because I want to explain it. Like to other people, like to explain like what was happening and like how like especially the time period. And yeah, so that's just like a little reflection like just on this topic. But oh no, so Vidyan says I actually want to reread Tomi-sama's biography, but I've lost the file. Oh no, it's okay. I'll send it to you again for sure. I can send you the original Japanese too because I found that in my email. I was like looking in my email for the documents and I found the original Japanese. So I'll send you that one and the translation like I vaguely did, which is probably really horrible because I did that 10 years ago. But yeah, so anyway, there's a lot to always research and like refresh on. And then there's other stuff too, like there's stuff in the Kyoten, but then there's stuff not in the Kyoten that's in the biographies. So like I have to cross-reference to be sure. Um like what I want to do basically is like have this like idea in my head that I kind of want to like go back from like the Kyoten, like what's in Oboegake and Oboecho, and then like connect it to what's in the Japanese biography and then kind of make like a clear and then connect that to what was in Takashi Tomi-sama's biography and then connect that to like what I know about like the other disciples like Kondo Fujimori-sama and like Sato Norio-sama and Shirakami Shinichiro sensei sama. So like I want to like make a comprehensive like understanding because like because it's in my like because I learned it in pieces. Like at first it was biography, then it was a boy got and boy cho, then it was like the disciples. So like I knew it like in fragments, and that bothers me because now I'm remembering it in fragments. So I want like something I want to do is like put it all together, and I think that will also help with understanding like the mindset of them, like Konko Daiji-sama and all the disciples of them in the Shinbutsu Shugo time in the late Edo period, and how that will make like a fuller picture, not only between like Konku faith, but also between like the religious understanding of the Shinbutsu Shugo time. So I really want to like, I need to do that. I need to do that, but unfortunately, day-to-day life is like, is so busy. So like, I'm like, I'm like, I'm sitting down like reading, and then it's like something happens, and it's like, oh my god, I have to do that. But it's something good to do, you know. It's something important that I've been trying to work on, so it's good. Oh, sorry, William said, yes, I mean the original Japanese. I think your translation is on the server, but it's not finished. And thank you. Oh no, thank you too. Yes, it's not finished. I think I told everyone, but maybe on the server. I don't remember now. But for those watching the live stream, like later on or now, there's a disciple in Konkokyo, one of the first like major disciples. Well, basically one of the first people who is doing Toritsugi mediation. Her name is Takashi Tomie, or her divine title was Konshodo Myojin Sama, and she was a really great minister. Like minister, as in like she was like basically what you'd understand as like a priest of Konko faith, priestess of Konko faith. But she was a Toritsugi mediator, so she did mediation between people and Tenchika no Kami-sama. And she was one of the first people to do Toritsugi mediation, like after Konko Daijin Sama. And she was so deeply like connected to Kami-sama that Konko Daijin Sama said, like, I see you as like my equal. And she was allowed to have her okekai, like, so usually the okekai is on this side, but like she was allowed to have her okekai on the opposite side facing, so that they would be equals, like looking at each other symbolically. So she was like a really prominent figure, and I wanted to understand her more because like I feel like she was like one of the more like intense first Toritsugi mediators. So I really genuinely wanted to understand her. And when I went to Kenkyusho, the research institute in Konkotown, they said, like, what do you want to study while you're here? And I said, I want to study Reverend Takashi Tomie because of her history, and like her teachings are really intense. I think, yes, okay, so that's what I'm remembering now, because in the Gorikai, I think it was one of her teachings that she mentioned Sambo Sama. That's why I'm like, that's why it's clicking for me now. So I think I have to go back to it. But like, I think in the Gorikai, it was the teaching from Takashi Tomie, like sensei. Sorry, I don't want to like show disrespect. I'm just like flipping between English and Japanese. But I think that's why like I remembered it, and it was like connected to her. But I don't know. But anyway, so I'm pretty sure she said the teaching like that too, and that's why I'm kind of recalling it in my head. But yeah, so Kenkyusha asked me like, who do you want to study? And I said I want to study her. And then so they gave me the biography in Japanese, and they were like, I think a good research for you would be to like translate this. But I was really bad at it because like I asked them for, like I said, people at the Kenkyusho for help translating because it was like archaic Japanese. So like even if you put in Google Translate, it would like only like understand like a little bit of it, at least 10 years ago especially. So I had to like constantly ask them like, what does this mean? What is the context? And I got pretty far with it, but I wasn't there long enough to finish the whole book. And they were like, this is good though, and you can finish the rest on your own time. But unfortunately my own time didn't happen. And I'm nervous now because I don't have the expertise that they do at Kenkyusho. So I'm trying to like wait till I get a little bit better in like archaic Japanese before I attempt. Otherwise I don't want to like cause a really bad translation. So it's difficult like that. But if anyone wants to try, like you're please feel free. Like I can send the document. It's a published book in Japan. It's not like a secret document or like exclusive. Like it just needs an English translation. So I think it's a good project to work on. And then I had to show my translation to Rokujoin Kyokai, where Takashi Tomie sensei, that was her original Kyokai, her Hiromai. And I had to show my translation and my report. to like the descendant, the current head minister of Reverend Takashi Tomie, and I was like so nervous. And but they were so nice, so I'm really thankful for that. And they were like, "Oh, this is really good," and they were seeing like it was in English, but like the people who were with me, like the senseis from Kenkyusho, they like explained the whole like what was happening and like what I was studying, and like my report was translated. So it was a really good experience, and I got to see like the howdy she wore, and yeah, she's a really important sensei and Mitama no Kami-sama and figure in Konko faith for me. So like I'm always like trying to like I want to like fully recall like all the things associated to her, because I don't know, it's like it's important to me. So like and of course like not only Reverend Takashi Tomie sensei, but like the other disciples, like I really like the teachings and the story of Shirakami Shinichiro. Like he was a sensei and like Ikigami sama, who like he prayed to get his eyesight restored, and over like 6 months he was praying nonstop with Konkodaiji sama. And then one day in the bath, he suddenly saw like a little light from the lantern, and then when he focused on the light, like his eyesight came back, and he was like so like shocked from the blessings that he was basically like cured from the blindness through his faith. And that is also a really powerful like faith story of Shirakami Shinichiro sama. So I wanna learn more about him too. And of course like the two big like Ikigami sama, like Sato Norio and Kondo Fujimori. They're also like they were really important people for like the foundation of Konko faith, like more like structured, especially like with the Meiji era stuff, like the westernization. Like they really helped to establish Konko faith, like more like in that era where they had to like be more, you know, like structured and like explain what is the Konko faith. And that's where we get like a lot of the stuff in the Gorikai 3. So yeah, there's a lot to learn. Like it's funny because like people ask me like oh Olivia, like how did you become a priest? And I'm like, oh yeah, like they're like, can I become a priest? Is it like, is Konko easier? And I'm like, no, it's not easier. It's not easier. It's like way harder because there's like so much more to learn and study. Um, and like there's like a lot you have to like understand and like write reports on. And for like if you want to be like a Shinto priest in like the general sense, like work at a Jinja Honcho shrine or like a small local shrine, like all you really need to know is like of course you need to know like Japanese history and like history of like Shinto in Japan, like Shinto practices in Japan, and like the ritual manners and everything. There's a lot to learn there too. But for Konko faith, you have to learn like all of that plus all of the Konko faith stuff and all the Konko faith history. So I'm like, no, it's not easier. Like I know it's difficult. Um and I know like a lot of people have the desire to become like either a priest in Konko faith, like Toritsugi mediator, or like in other Shinto faiths, but unfortunately, like it's very difficult. Like it takes a lot of like it takes a lot of effort and time and dedication, and especially for Konko faith, because there's like so many things you have to like again, like because it's before Meiji, especially there's so much to like understand and like research. And a friend recently asked me about their desire, and they asked me like, would it be better if I tried to pursue like in Konko faith? And I felt really bad because like I know their feeling, but I kind of had to explain it like to be a Shinto priest in general is kind of like being like a general practitioner doctor. Like you can have your own clinic, and you can see the patients one-on-one, and you can do all the stuff a doctor can do. But then being a priest in Konko faith, it's like being a doctor, but you're like a surgeon. So it's like you have to like know everything that a doctor knows plus how to do like surgery. So it's like extra like studying and extra work and like extra responsibility too because you have to do toritsugi mediation for people and that like that is can really take a toll on people if you're not like prepared. Um like it's even taken a toll on me. Like not taking a toll on me, but like I get like when I hear sometimes like people's toritsugi mediation and like in person especially and you know that like they're crying in front of you and like it's very serious and there's so much going on in their life and like sometimes I just want to start crying too but like I can't because I have to be like focused to do toritsugi mediation. Like it's not about me, it's about like connecting the person to kami-sama, and that's like it's really really important that you don't like lose yourself in the emotion because you have a duty to fulfill to the person and to kami-sama. But that like it can be a lot of pressure if you're not like prepared for that. So that's why I'm like that's why I'm like no like I know Konko Faith is more like accessible, especially in North America, but it's like a whole other like again, it's like the difference between like a general practitioner and like a surgeon doctor. Like you have to, like a surgeon has way more responsibility and they have to be sure like they don't make any mistakes and they have to be precise and like there's a lot more on their shoulders than like a GP, a general practitioner doctor who can just like refer the person to a specialist and you know do general checkups, but they won't have to be responsible for someone's life, and that's kind of what I try to convey. Um, and I feel bad because I don't want to like I don't want to sound like I don't know like you're not like ready for this. Like I don't want to sound like that. I just want to be transparent about the level of like responsibility you have to hold and also the level of your own personal growth that you have to go through. And and even though you're like ordained, it doesn't mean that you're like perfect. Like you still have a lot to learn. So like maybe like for me, for example, like 10 years ago I got like my minister's license and like maybe that's like me getting like a surgeon's license, but like even after that, like I wouldn't feel comfortable. Like I would have to like if I was using the surgeon example, like I'd want to observe an actual surgery before attempting it like as a head surgeon, you know what I mean? So like that's kind of the difference between like even then, even after you become a konko priest, there's still like a gap between like you and like a head priest who has like the experience, and then they have an even more responsibility. So it's like that kind of level where it's like it's not comparable to like a priest at like a regular jinja. And I'm not saying like it's like I'm not saying it's like above. I'm just saying it's like more weight. It's like more responsibility. So, and that's why like I really have a huge respect for like you know like elder senseis and more experienced senseis and especially like again like referring to the original Toritsugi mediators. They were like extra. I respect them even more extra because they didn't have anyone to turn to. Like they had Konko Daijin sama there, which is like really like huge like help, but they didn't have like email, they didn't have phone, they didn't have like they couldn't just like drive a car to his Hiromai and be like, hey, like Konko Daijin sama, like please tell me what to do. Like they had to manage somehow like a lot of times like on their own without directly contacting Kongo Daiji sama in the moment or like in a situation. So like I have great respect for them because that means that they connected to Kami-sama like strongly to get through these situations. So like I don't know, that's like it's like a lot. It's like a lot of things to think about, you know. Okay, sorry, let me see the comments now. Vidin-san says, I love that Kondo Fujimori sensei loved to drink and party in the town. Yes, and then he was like, okay, I need to get serious and practice faith, and became great sensei. I guess, yes, same. It is amazing. Like, I love that there was like this duality between the senseis. Like, there wasn't like, you know, like they had this like they had like a more nuanced and complex like personality and history, and like I think that's also what made Kondo Fujimori sensei like able to connect to people a lot too, because he wasn't coming from a place where like he would understand, like he would understand what a lot of people were going through, or like what they did, or like parties and stuff. So it's like really interesting. Sorry, Alvadim says, I don't really like that some people want to be a Shinto priest and think Konkokyo will be their pass ticket without actually caring about their faith. Oh no, yes. I actually think that most people are not ready to be any kind of priest, so it's okay to say that, in my honest opinion. Oh no, yes, yeah. It's yeah, unfortunately, like I think a lot of people don't understand like the reality the reality of it. Um like I don't know, like I guess like for me it's a little bit difficult to understand because I remember when my sensei asked me like, would you consider in the future becoming like a minister? And I said, maybe when I'm like 40 or 50, like when I was like 20, because I knew that me, like random like university person, like would not be ready to handle what a sensei is doing um until later because I at the time I felt like I could not um like take on that responsibility because I could see directly at the Toronto Kyokai like just how much responsibility like Kishi sensei, Toshiko sensei, and like Stephanie sensei had um on their shoulders like at the time, and like they had to like do toritsugi for so many people. And the toritsugi is so serious, like it like yeah, maybe sometimes it can just be people like saying about their day, but or like maybe like a minor problem, like like, oh, there's some situation at work or something. That was my toritsugi basically, like, oh my god, my work is blah blah blah. But like I knew that there was toritsugi, like sometimes like you should say would be like, can everyone go downstairs, it's kind of private, and like we'd all go downstairs in the basement, and they would be doing toitsugi for a long, long, long time. And I don't know what they talked about, but I knew later on there was like really serious situations going on, like asking kami-sama like big, huge life choices that would affect a lot of people. So it's like if you're not ready for that to like be the person to connect kami-sama in that situation, um it can be very hard. And again, like you have to put your duty above your own self. So like like especially like because we have the Mitama no Kami-sama shrine, like the altar. Sometimes there's like funerals as well, and dealing with the family members and grief care, and really heavy stuff. And sometimes like there's some situations like people like can't even imagine might happen sometimes, and you can't just like start breaking down in front of the family members, or like at the okekai. Like you can't just like like just like have that moment of feeling. Like you have to put kami-sama first and the people first. And like I say it like this, like I'm just saying it with words, but like actually doing it is another story. And there's been times like I had to like really like 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 cling to kami-sama because it was just so much. And like I knew that me as Olivia could not like handle that, so I like asked kami-sama like just like kami-sama, like this is the like just let me do what you need me to do in this moment, and I will do it, and that's it. And like that's how you got to get through things, because it's just so much. And yeah, even at like other shrines, like Jinja Shinto shrines, like yeah, there's not that responsibility of toritsugi, but you still have a responsibility to the parishioners to take care of the shrine, to manage everything like clerically, like legally. You have to deal with like like any kind of public job really, but like you have to be careful of like people who have bad intentions, or people who might try to like do crime, like criminal activity in the shrine or criminal activity to the shrine. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this type of work. Um, and like that's just on the secular side. Like I'm not even talking about the responsibility you have to kami-sama, which is like a whole other like huge thing. So that is like the core thing I would say. So yeah, like it's really like it's hard for like anywhere in Shinto practice, any faith really. And it's like extra surgeon level hard in Konko faith. And I'm not even gonna joke with you guys. Like there was times during my training, I wanted to give up. Like I wanted to give like stop right there and be like, I cannot do this. Like I'm not ready for this. Like there was so many times in my training that I was feeling that way because it was so difficult. Like it, like it's like I can't even explain it. You know what I mean? Like it was difficult in the sense that not what you had to do because what we had to do physically was more like cleaning and praying. Like it wasn't like boot camp. Like like nobody was like forcing me to do like 20 jumping jacks or something. So it wasn't like a physical sense, and it wasn't like really an academic sense because there was a lot to learn and a lot to study, and you had to write reports, and you had to do interviews. But that's like normal school, right? But I think the biggest thing that it's really difficult to explain in words is like understanding the weight you will have to carry for like kami-sama and like for the lives of people who like not even people who come to the kyokai, but like because like especially because Tenchikan no Kami-sama like it's ayo kakeo, like they need us to help people. So if you're going to be like a minister or like a priest or like a toritsugi mediator of Tenchikan no Kami-sama, like this feeling is like doubled that like Kami-sama needs you to help people, and it doesn't matter if like they're coming to the kyokai or like giving donations or something. Like you have to just like as my sensei kind of explained it, like Andrew Uzunoi sensei at Portland Kyokai, he's explained it kind of like if Kami-sama was like the emperor or like a warlord, and like you have to do like what they need you to do, and that could be like really difficult for you to do that. If that makes sense. Like for example, like he's told me a story where Kami-sama told him to like tell this family that they had to like get on a plane like right now, and he was like nervous because he was like, I don't want to like first of all like it would be like intrusive and it's a lot of money and they don't talk to me that much, and there was so many human reasons for him not to do that, but he like felt from Kami-sama like he had to do that, like he had to tell them to get on the plane right now, and it doesn't matter what what Andrew Sensei thinks, like he has to tell them in that moment. Like the feeling was like so strong, like it wasn't even like a passing thought or like an anxiety, it was just like you have to do this. So he does it, and then of course like the family was like, you know, like what, like they were so confused and they were like concerned, and they're like, it's not like you to be this like urgent, and they're like, what's going on? And he had to say like, oh, Kami-sama like told me this, and even though they were like extra confused because they went to the kyokai but they weren't really like deeply like, you know, spiritual kind of people as much as like at least what I remember from the story. And but then they were like, no, like I have this feeling like we should go. And then so they went, they like spent all the money and got on the plane. And then this whole time this is happening, like Andrew Sensei's like nervous, as like super nervous, like anxiety, like sweating, like oh my goodness, like what if they do this whole thing, they spend all this money and then there's nothing that's going on, and I'm gonna have to face like the consequences of that because I'm the one who like advised him so urgently. But he had to trust Kami-sama, you know, like that's the whole thing. Like he had to trust Kami-sama in that moment. Like that's what all his training and like all his experience like leading to a point like this. And then it turns out that the family had to go on the plane so urgently because like one of their family members was going to be in critical condition, and they wouldn't have had enough time to be there for them, or like there was like a certain situation that they had to be there at that time, and the other family member was like in critical condition, or they were like going to die, and they had to be there or they wouldn't have made it in time. And after that, the family like thanked Andrew Sensei profusely, but he was like, no, it's like Kami-sama who did this, like not me, like I'm just the messenger. And that's another important part, because you have to like understand, like it's not like your power, I guess, like it's not your thing, it's just like you're just a messenger for Kami-sama, like you're just the person who's Kami-sama can act through. And then like the family got like deeper faith in Kami-sama from this experience, because he was able to let go of his human anxieties and fears, and like his own personal fears, and like just do what he had to do, his duty. And that is really hard. Like when I hear that story, I don't even know if I would have the, like if I didn't hear that story from him and it happened to me, I think I would be so scared. I would be like frozen almost, because I wouldn't know what to tell them, or like if it was okay. And like to understand, like I'd have to face the repercussions of that. And like now where I am, I think like I would follow in Andrew Sensei's footsteps, and like what he taught me, and like Masafumi Sensei as well, and like Kishi Sensei, and like all the other senseis taught me like how to go through these certain situations. But I don't think if I had that guidance, I don't think I would be strong enough to do that situation with the knowledge that like it would be like not like me being crazy, you know what I mean? Or like imposing on a family, or like causing them a big situation to happen, you know. And like of course that's like a very rare situation, but it's not like it's the only type of situation that can happen. And so that's what I mean when I say like to say you want to be to say that like, well, maybe Konko faith is like easier. But it's like this level of responsibility and like trust in Kami-sama, and this weight, like understanding this weight you have to be ready to carry. I feel like that's very difficult to get across. Even if I'm talking to you on live stream like this, I think I still can't actually articulate like how it is. And, like of course when you explain how difficult something is, people are like, they take it as a challenge, like I can do it. But honestly, like it's real, like it's really real, and it's not a joke. Like it's really intense. So I hope I can try to convey that while not like pushing people away. It's just like, this is the reality of what it is. And if you sincerely want to, even after all this, then I respect that. But don't think it's going to be like the easy way, because it's like completely not the easy way. Not that I'm saying people who ask always think it's the easy way, but I've had other people who email me and they're like, it seems easier to be a Konko faith priest because there's lots of Kyokai in North America. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, it's not. So yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Vadim said, I saw your comment now. Oh my gosh. I was just like going on. But Vadim says, I think it's exactly how Abe Sensei said, that first of all, people have to prove that they're sincere, and it's not because of their ego and being super cool, super spiritual person. Yes, exactly. Because if you like go into it for ego, like that third thing I mentioned, where it's like you feel like you start to like feel like how real it is, and like the weight of everything, and like I guess because people are very detached now from like the unseen world, like Hakurio, like we're kind of more like material world only focused society and culture. It's not taken as seriously, like it's just only the material side. But I'm not even talking about like having spiritual experiences. I'm just talking about like, it's like something you feel like in your gut feeling. Like you start to feel like this is real. Like I can't like mess around with this stuff, you know, like I can't just pretend like I can get through this like by just like being like cleaning things really good or like writing really good essays. You know, like it's way more like you start to feel the weight of that. And yeah, that's why I wanted to quit so many times because I was like, I don't think I can carry this weight because like and like nothing was really happening. Like it's not like I got like any like divine revelations or like a ghost appeared or like something like that. Like none of that happened. It was just like you start to understand like what you're actually about to start carrying and and then it's like it starts to hit you like oh you can't like just treat this lightly. Like it's very like it's something deeper. You know, and I think maybe the only time people kind of don't really like notice this as much is like when they've like grown up in the Kyokai and then they're kind of like just like inheriting it from their parent or their grandparent. And like I think that's okay too. You know, there's ministers like that as well. Like they kind of grew up and now they're inheriting. But in a way that's also a duty, you know, that's also something that they've been born into and that they've lived every single day and they've seen it every single day, the toritsugi mediation, the prayers, the rituals. So I think that's like they've already kind of trained through their life, and so they understand like the meaning of it innately. But for someone like me who kind of came just like, you know, I had no experience at all. I had like my life was like chaotic, like you know, I was all over the place. So for someone like me to come into it and starting to learn everything and then realizing as I went on, um, and I know a lot of people who ask me about advice, they're kind of in the same like boat as me. Like they didn't grow up in a kyokai, you know what I mean? So that's why I kind of want to show the reality of it. Like I'm not saying you're not capable because I knew like everyone like sometimes some people who ask me are like I know that they would be like way more capable than me. I think maybe like some people who ask me, they just need that opportunity. But I still always want to explain to them like this is how it is, you know, like it's deeper. It goes deeper than you might imagine. Especially because like if you ever see like a minister in a kyokai, like they always look really chill and like happy and like everything's good. Like at least my experience, like, you know, like all the senseis are like I know, like especially the elder senseis are like super cheerful and like really nice and like everything's good. I'm like, oh, so it's like, you know, it's not hard to be a sensei. Like I thought back then. I'm like, oh, you know, like it's good. It's so like it's like happy, you know, but it's like no. And then, you know, as I grow older and more experienced, I realize like they're always so happy and cheerful because they have such a close connection to Kami-sama and they know like Tenchika no Kami-sama and like how many blessings we're given and how much Kami-sama cares for us and wants to like help us and guide us. And you can't help but feel like happy at that. You can't help but feel like grateful that like kami-sama's, you know, kami-sama, you know, so like you feel like this ease as well. Even if it's not always easy and it can be very hard. There's kind of like this ease that comes knowing Tenchika no Kami-sama because they are like tirelessly, like ceaselessly always trying to help people and caring for them and like how many blessings they constantly give us. And yeah, you can't like there's no way you can be like gloomy about that, you know? Like it's just like it's one of the like beautiful things in life and like so something to be so thankful for. So, you know, I didn't understand at the time, but I think I'm starting to understand it more now, especially. And, you know, like if I compare like all the really scary things in the world and knowing like how much like Tenshiko no Kami-sama like wants to help that and like wants to stop it and like wants people to be happier and like better and like enjoy life. Even though like there's some inevitable suffering from living as a human, that like we can't escape death, we can't escape illness, but there's also so many blessings to like we recognize and we can be appreciative of. And yeah, like it's something to be happy for, you know, like something to be thankful for. So That's kind of like what I'm trying to like learning and realizing now. And you know, some senseis like they're like even like they're like next level. Like I cannot, you know, like I can't. I know I couldn't be their level, which is like, for example, like some senseis would be like diagnosed with like cancer or like other serious illnesses, and they're like just completely like happy and like peaceful, and not like a fake happy. Like from deep down, they're like, no, like I'll be fine. Like it's like Kami-sama's with me. Like I don't feel scared. I don't feel anxious. Like I know Kami-sama's gonna be with me, whether I'm going to die or whether I'm going to live. Kami-sama's with me, and they're like at peace, and it's like so moving to see that. And they don't like, you know, they don't like get anxious or like scared or like, and again, it's not like they're pretending. It's like they genuinely feel Kami-sama so deep that they know that they're going to be cared for. Like they really embody the teaching, like no matter if you live or die, like the universe is always our home. And like I don't know, like maybe someday I can reach that level, but unfortunately now, like I still get anxious. I still get like upset about things, you know. I still get like nervous, but then like Kami-sama is like calms me down. But then it's like I don't have that like innate like connection yet, you know. I think that's like Konkodaiji sama level, you know, like it's very intense. But that's why I say that's why I say being not only Konko priest, Konko minister, Toritsugi mediator, but also like practicing Konko faith, it's like it goes deep, you know, like it's a lot to understand and like go deeper into your own self and understanding like the universe and everything. It's not for like the people who are just into Shinto for like the kitsune and like the cute stuff. Like not like people who are naughty face, but you know what I mean? Like people who just like see anime stuff and they're like, it's cute. I like the tori and the foxes. And I'm like, yes, I mean it's cute, but yeah, but like um yeah, so it's good if you just like, you know, like that's okay, but like that's not like where Konko faith is gonna go. It's like way more intense and like deeper. So yeah. So, that's important to make that distinction as well. Like usually I'm getting deja vu. Did I say this before? But even if I did say it before, it still like applies because I feel like it's hard for people to kind of see that depth, I guess. So yeah, Tifa sends us like, oh yeah, those people. Yeah, like you know what I'm talking about. Like there's nothing wrong with that, honestly, but when people who are like only like Shinto stuff for like the cute stuff, like the omamori, tori, kitsune, um, the Miko-san, you know, like it's cute, but when those types of people say like I want to be a Konko priest because it looks easier, I'm like, oh no, like this is like no, it's like I'm sorry, like you guys are here, but then it's like you got to be like at least here to get like here. So it's like a whole like deeper faith, like genuine faith, and sincere practice, not just like the cute stuff. So I mean, of course there's like cute stuff in Konko too. Like we have the cute little key things and like the little mascot, but that's kind of like, you know, to balance it out. You know, we gotta have a balance too. But it's not all that's not all what it is about. So I guess that's kind of like what I'm trying to convey. I mean, like honestly, even on my laptop, there's this little Konko mascot. He's called Manju Man, and I love him so much. He's literally like a manju, which is like it's like like not a cookie. It's like a pancake, I guess, with like red bean in it. And I'm gonna try to draw him. And he's like the mascot of Konko Town, and I love him so much because he's very silly. He's like kind of like a bootleg Anpan Man, but he's really cute. He looks like this. It's like Manju Man. And sometimes there's a guy in a Manjuman costume who like goes around in Konkota. And it's like it really takes the edge off sometimes because like like when I was training in Gakuin, like I'd be like so serious, like feeling the weight. And then there would be like the summer kids event, and then Manjuman would come out like a guy in a Manjuman costume, and it wasn't even like a full like mascot uniform. It was just like a guy with like the jumpsuit and like the Manju Man like head, and he was like dancing around. Like it was so funny because of the contrast, and I couldn't help but laugh. And yeah, like I have like a soft spot for Manju Man, but he's like the balance, like the balance between like the really intense stuff and then the cute stuff. But it's not like the cute stuff is all that there is. So it was funny though. And like I haven't seen Manju Man in a while. I don't know who's in the costume. Maybe it changes every time. But I have a sticker of Manju Man on my laptop. And they have like sticker sheets of him, and he's funny. I don't know. And it's so funny because some other senseis are like, we need a better mascot. But I'm like, no, like it's okay. He's like he's just so iconic, Like you can't beat Manju Man. I don't know. At least that's my opinion. Even if we had a more like a cuter mascot or like a more mascotty mascot, Manju Man's like iconic in his own way. So yeah, he's funny. Oh, okay. Vanessa says, I remember seeing talk on the Discord server, like, I want to be a Shinto priest, but don't want to learn Japanese. And someone was like, in Konkokyo, they don't need Japanese to be a priest. Oh no. Oh no, yeah. Yeah. See, that's another thing I come across. Like like it the statement is true in some cases if you're gonna serve a kyokai in North America, but it's not really true because you have to learn hiragana and you should know a little bit of Japanese to be in gakuin, and you're gonna have to learn like Japanese to study the kyoten a little bit, and like it's not like you have to like be fluent, but you can get by. But then it's like that shouldn't be the only reason you choose to become a Kongo minister, because it's like easier because of the language. So it's like like the core of that statement is not like, it doesn't like click with the reality. So yeah. So that's kind of interesting though. Tiff-san says, those people usually fizzle out after they do basic research. In the Shinto Discord, we had people do that and then they don't talk about it anymore. Video. Ah, yes. So yeah, like thankfully, like they do kind of like realize like, okay, maybe I was like putting the cart before the horse, and maybe I gotta like take a step back. But it is just a little bit like, at times it can be a little bit like disheartening because it feels like the basic kind of understanding is not there. And it's a little bit like Hazukashi, like it's a little bit embarrassing that like there's always someone who's kind of jumping to the priest um title before learning about the faith. So it's a little bit like Hazukashi too, because it's like I don't want to be the person to like point it out and like cause a whole scene, and then it's like a situation. I don't know, maybe that's the like Japanese cultural side I'm used to, but like I don't want to like, it's like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? So it's like a situation. So like hopefully like maybe someday I'm gonna try to like explain this a little bit more like in the public sphere. Like I understand, and it's hard because then it's like the people who are sincere get kind of like mixed up with the people who are like just in it for like the anime vibes, which again is like, it's like I get it, but it also, we have to be like, we have to understand the respect, and then it's like now everything's getting like mixed up together, and it's like embarrassing, and it's like awkward, and it's like now we got to explain, and it's like it's a whole thing. So that's why hopefully this changes in the future with more education. So, and maybe I can try to explain a little bit of that like third, like the weight of things and like how things can get serious, but it's really difficult to convey that over text, because sometimes I've tried to convey it and then people say like, oh no, I can do that though, like I can do that, no problem, like it's not a problem for me. And I'm like, okay, I guess, but like you won't actually know until you're actually there. So it's like please understand this. So and it's awkward because I don't want to say that to them, and it's gonna be like, again, like it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like the Japanese culture experience in me, but like it's like so hazukashi to like go into. Hazukashi means embarrassing, and like it's so embarrassing to go into it, and like awkward, and like it's a lot. Vadim says, with all my respect to Manjuman, but high key we need other Konko mascots. Yeah. Yeah, Manjuman's kind of like he's iconic, but yeah, we that's a sentiment a lot of people have. Where like we like Manjuman's cool, but I like the International Center's mascot, the little green blob guy. He's really cute. I think he should be the mascot elsewhere too. And maybe it'd be cute if we had like I don't know, like kind of like Oni-chan, like an Oni mascot. Um, like to connect to Konjin sama maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas, but yeah, Manjuman's a little bit. He has a little bit of that like weird vibe, so maybe not like the best mascot as a whole. But he's funny. I think I'll find a picture of him and I'll send it later. Oh my gosh. Oh shoot. But so it's two oh sorry. Oh, let me read your comment, please. Um sorry. From what I see, people who actually can become a good priest don't run around and scream about it. They don't say anything about becoming a priest. They're just good. Ah, yes. Exactly. Like they don't have to be like every post is like or like everything that they talk about is like being a priest, So I really like I know like for me it's like a conflict because like I feel like sometimes like should I be like that? Like should I like put the card out more? But then I'm like I don't know because I feel like it's weird. I want to keep a balance, because like I don't want to sound like you know what I mean. Like I don't want to sound like it's like the whole like I don't want to make it like an Instagram influencer thing, like you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like I try to like at least online, like it's important to like balance like okay, what are you? Like what's your existence online? So you have to like name yourself. But then it's like I don't want to like influence or Instagram like like take a whole like photo shoot of me like doing a ritual like that's like like I've seen that sometimes on like other shrine pages, and like I'm like, should I do that? But then I'm like, that feels kind of weird because I don't want to be like commodifying a ritual. But then it's like I want to show people the ritual, so I just kind of try to show it like a normal ritual. So it's like very hard to balance. Um, but as long as for me, like you can kind of see the difference between like a priest who's like more like down to earth um like even if they're like explaining what's happening in the online sphere like what they are or like what they're doing versus like someone who's like they're always kind of like focusing on themselves like only so it's like a weird balance to make but yeah it's like basically the funny thing is too like in Konko faith like being a priest is not like it's not like you have like a special like it's not like you have like a special like position or like connection really like it's not like you're above other people it's just that you have more responsibility than other people so like you're more responsible to perform ceremonies and to perform toritsugi and to be the person who connects kami-sama and people but then your your identity as a priest is not like a special position if that makes sense like you're not above other people in the sense that you're more valuable than them like people look to you for guidance because of your training and experience but then the responsibility you carry to connect people to kami-sama but it's not like you're more valuable as an individual than them and like I don't really see like like it's difficult because like like how to explain this like it's hard to keep that balance between like it's not hard to keep the balance but it's important to keep the balance between those two like sides and I have seen like not really in Konko but like outside of Konko um like everything the person does like always connects back to them like being the head priest of the jinja and it's like really like it's a little bit like, again, it's like hazukashi because it's like it kind of shows again, like it kind of I don't know, like reinforces the idea like a priest is someone more valuable than others. But that's not true. Like it's just you have a duty, but it doesn't mean you're more valuable. So it's like it's complicated like that. Um, but I don't know. It's like it's hard to keep the balance, especially like online, on like on social media and stuff, right? Because it's like, well, I guess that's kind of why like I don't like like on the YouTube I put like Reverend Olivia, but like on the Discord and stuff, it's like I don't put the Reverend part because it's just weird, because we're like in a chat room, so. And like that's why I don't like to put on airs because it feels like weird like that too. Like put on airs as in like, you know, pretend I'm not a normal person. Because and like I'm still a normal person with normal like with average hobbies. Like I'm not gonna pretend to be a divine person, if that makes sense. Because I've seen that before I got ordained and like I knew like if I'm the same way as that, I don't want to be like that. So I try to like adjust it, but there's other ministers who are like really they have the balance really good, so it's nice. Um okay, let's see. Oh sorry, so many comments. Uh Tiva-san says, I love all the shrine mascots though, they're so cute. Oh same, I love them so much. Oni-chan and Omochi are the best and forever in my heart. Oh yes, same. So Oni-chan and Omochi are like our shrine's mascots, and I don't have a. Oh, I do actually. Wait, hold on. Yes, here they are. So this is Oni-chan. He's like an Oni. He's a baby Oni, and then Omochi is like his pet, or like not really his pet. His like his friend, like kind of like his daughter in a way. Like they're like friends, and they're always together. And Oni-chan came about because Masafumi Sensei drew a picture of like this tiny Oni in like a little handmade shrine. And I thought that was the cutest thing ever. And then he made like a handmade plushie of Oni-chan. And then we had Oni-chan like the plushie. But then I thought he looked lonely, so I made a tiny cat, and that was Omochi. And then they became the mascot. And this is not made by this is made by actually a worshiper named Junko-san, and she does all these really cute like products, not products, but like items, handmade items. And here's like another one. It's like Omochi and Oni-chan under the cherry blossom trees. And then this is like they're looking at a thing, and there's like more there's more coasters and um like bags and like other merch, but it's all handmade and like very economical. So um unfortunately, we like it's not really made mass scale, so I can't like I can't like offer it on that level. But like for events and stuff here, like she'll offer to sell her handmade items, so it's really cool. Um, Redeem says we need mascot for Russia Cool worship group, but I don't have any good ideas. Maybe Oni-chan's Russian sister or something. Hello, just kidding. No, maybe no, you should though. Like Hime Konjin sama like mascot, Oni-chan's like cousin or like his sister is cute, or another Oni. It'd be really cute. Or like I remember you mentioned once like maybe like a bear. That'd be cute too. Like a bear in a shozuku. Be super cute. I don't know. There's lots of ideas, so I'm happy. I'm looking forward to see what you come up with. So it'll be good. Um, Michael Sen says, thinking you're more valuable than others is one step to hell. Yes. I'm really glad you stay humble despite being a priest. Oh, thank you so much. Well, despite is not a good word to describe that. No, don't worry. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like, even though I have the responsibility of a priest, I don't want to make it seem like I'm like, like we're talking about like above others or like more valuable than them or anything like that. Maybe that I sometimes I get like criticism for it, like, oh, like you shouldn't like post anything online but your priest like stuff and like don't show like or like for example like don't say Like I've gotten criticism for everything, like the way I talk, the way I post stuff online, the way I have like personal like my personal accounts, um like so many so many criticisms, and I'm like it's okay though. Like I don't want like priests to have this like untouchable image, because if you make priests feel untouchable, then like you kind of stop seeing them as a person. And I don't like, okay, bye video son. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, I don't like how like some people might stop to see priests as like an actual human being. Like because they are human beings. So um it's really important for me, even just in general, because I'm scared of stuff like, parasocial relationships and like idolization, because like nobody's perfect, like even me, like I have a lot to work on. Like I have a laundry list of stuff I need to work on about myself, and I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist. um and I have a lot to learn and a lot to go through, and it's just I don't want to pretend like that's not real. And even just in general, like everybody's a human being. Like we all have to eat, we all have to use the washroom. And kind of similar, like I look up to Konko Daijin sama, who kind of like, even though he was called like Igami, um, he didn't like think that he didn't say that made him above other people, or thought he didn't think it made him above other people, and he didn't think it made him above being a human. So the same way that moved me, I want to like emulate that in my like life. But it's hard because like again, like you have to like explain what you are on social media, especially, and like explain what you do, and like show like what you're doing, because like otherwise people are like, this is a fake person. And it's like, I'm not fake, I'm just like not trying to show everything all the time. So it's really difficult with the internet and social media and stuff. But I don't know, there's a way to, I'm trying to balance it, with all that. um I would like to balance it more, but it's difficult because of the nature of social media. I mean, that's why I don't have like, once I asked my friend, like, should I make a LinkedIn? My friend's like, no, please, like, please don't make a LinkedIn. Like, I'm like, okay, I guess I don't need a LinkedIn to like show you're a priest or something. So it's like, it's funny like that. Or like, it's like a balance of like trying to show people like who you are and what you're doing, and just to show you're like a person. So yeah. Mike says, please don't take those very seriously. Receiving criticism from random strangers for random things is basically internet starter pack. Oh no, yeah, exactly. It is like, it is so internet culture, internet life. It's crazy. It's like, I don't know. Like I don't like I don't try to like so like whenever I get criticism, I take a minute and I'm like, okay, let's see. Like, what is this person saying about me? And I'm like, is it true? Do I have to work on things? And I think like I sit with it. I don't like even if I know it's ridiculous. For me personally, I have to sit with it because I'm like insecure about myself sometimes. Like I don't have a good image of like I don't have a good understanding of like the image I give off sometimes. Like for me, I'm just me. So I try to consider more like how I come off to other people, especially in Japan, where that means a lot of things. Um, so I try to sit with everything, but then when I realize it's kind of like just random, or like it doesn't really make sense, I'm just like, okay, well, like I'm sorry, but I'm still gonna have my personal accounts where I talk about like Toho and like Dark Souls and like games I play, because I'm a human being. So and I'm like a 90s kid. Like I'm 1993. Like I grew up on the internet. I grew up in the 2007 era. I grew up with video games and anime. Like I'm not gonna pretend that didn't happen. And I grew up in a forest, isolated by the elves. Like I'm not gonna pretend that was me. Like that's literally like what I've lived through. So I think it's important to be realistic about that and not pretend like, again, like I'm some fairy lady. So it's just like that. But yeah, so sorry, I'm laughing because like it's funny. Like sometimes I see that online, and like it's okay if it's like an art thing, but if you're like being serious about it, it's a little bit like it's a little bit hazkashi. So yeah. But anyways, so sorry, I went on a tangent. But it's like it's 3 o'clock in the morning now, and tomorrow is our monthly ceremony. So I should get going to sleep. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. And I hope it was a good live stream, and I hope I could explain everything. And next time, I'll look more into like a lot of some stuff we talked about this time, and hopefully, you'll enjoy the next stream as well. And thank you so much for joining too. And for those who watch later, thank you so much for watching as well. Okay, I'll end the stream for now, but thank you so much and have a good day or good night. Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye for now.